In the year 1922, an archaeological expedition working in southern Iraq was excavating the ruins of an ancient city known as Larsa. As layers of hardened soil and dust were carefully removed, the team uncovered something unexpected beneath the surface. It was a small object made of baked clay, roughly 8 inches tall, shaped like a four-sided prism. At first, it appeared ordinary, almost insignificant. But when researchers looked closer, they noticed that every inch of its surface was covered with tiny carved symbols arranged in precise, rhythmic patterns. This discovery would go on to challenge our understanding of early human history. Today, it is known as the Weld-Blundell Prism, and it contains the most complete version of the Sumerian King List, a document that records the rulers who held power in Mesopotamia thousands of years ago. But the moment you begin reading the text, something feels unusual. The opening line does not sound like typical historical writing. It states that kingship descended from heaven before arriving in the first city, Eridu. According to modern archaeology, Eridu was one of the earliest cities ever established, dating back to around 5400 BC. Yet the numbers recorded on this prism appear impossible when compared to our modern timeline. The list claims that the first king ruled for 28,800 years. His successor is said to have ruled for 36,000 years. In fact, the first 8 rulers mentioned are credited with a combined total of more than 240,000 years of leadership. To understand how extraordinary this claim is, consider that around 240,000 years ago, modern humans were only beginning to develop according to current scientific models. We were not building cities or organizing complex societies. Many historians interpret these extreme numbers as symbolic exaggerations or mythological storytelling. However, the mystery becomes more complicated as the document continues. Over time, the recorded reign lengths begin to decrease, moving from tens of thousands of years to thousands, then hundreds, and eventually to durations that resemble realistic human lifespans. What makes this even more intriguing is that some of the later kings listed on the same artifact are historically confirmed. Archaeologists have discovered inscriptions, monuments, and artifacts connected to their reigns. This raises an important question. Where does legend end and verifiable history begin? Did ancient scribes suddenly become more accurate halfway through the list? Or are we misunderstanding how earlier time periods were recorded? To explore this mystery, it is important to understand how the Sumerians approached mathematics. Their numerical system was based on 60 instead of 10. This is why modern time still uses 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. They also used large numerical units to represent time, and many reign lengths in the king list are exact multiples of these units. Some scholars believe this suggests symbolic meaning, indicating that early rulers were considered divine or larger than life rather than literally immortal. Yet another layer of mystery appears when researchers analyze the totals. Certain numbers seem to align with astronomical cycles, particularly the slow movement of Earth's axis known as precession, which takes roughly 26,000 years to complete. Recognizing such cycles would require long-term observations across many generations, far beyond what is typically associated with early civilizations. This has led some researchers to propose that the knowledge reflected in the list may have been inherited from an earlier cultural tradition. Another theory suggests that the long reigns might represent entire dynasties or periods of rule grouped under a single name. In this interpretation, the list preserves historical continuity without requiring individuals to live for thousands of years. However, the Sumerian scribes themselves did not clearly explain the numbers in this way. They presented them alongside ordinary administrative details, suggesting they were meant to be taken seriously. According to the text, everything changed after a catastrophic event, a massive flood that swept across the land and reset civilization. After this event, kingship is described as descending from heaven once again, beginning a new era. Archaeological evidence does indicate that significant flooding occurred in ancient Mesopotamia. Excavations have revealed thick layers of flood sediment at multiple sites, suggesting that major regional disasters took place thousands of years ago. Following this supposed flood, the reign lengths recorded on the king list dropped dramatically. Kings are said to rule for hundreds of years rather than thousands, and over generations those numbers continue to decline until they reach familiar human lifespans. This pattern creates the impression of a civilization that believed something fundamental had been lost after a major catastrophe, whether knowledge, power, or stability. One of the most important figures from the later portion of the list is a ruler named Enmebaragesi of Kish. Archaeologists have found inscriptions bearing his name, confirming that he was a real historical king. Yet the King List states that he ruled for 900 years. This contradiction suggests the document was not pure fiction. Instead, it may reflect a different way of measuring time or representing authority. As power later shifted to the city of Uruk, another famous figure appears, Gilgamesh. Known from epic literature as a hero searching for immortality, he is also associated with the construction of the massive walls of Uruk, remains of which still exist today. These physical structures support the possibility that legendary stories may have developed around real historical rulers over time. However, the King List itself is not a neutral record. Some powerful cities known from archaeology are completely missing from the document. This suggests the text may have been influenced by political motives, presenting a version of history that legitimized certain dynasties while excluding others. Hidden within the numbers may also be deeper meaning. Some versions of the King List give a total of 432,000 years for the reigns before the flood. This number appears in multiple ancient traditions and is connected to astronomical calculations, leading some researchers to believe the list may function partly as a cosmic timeline. Ultimately, there are several ways to interpret this mysterious artifact. The numbers may represent symbolic expressions of divine authority. They may reflect entire dynasties rather than individual lifetimes. Or they could preserve distorted memories of a much older period of human civilization. Whatever the explanation, the Weld-Blundell Prism remains one of the most fascinating discoveries from the ancient world. It reflects a culture attempting to preserve its past and maintain continuity after what it believed was a world-changing catastrophe. The question remains open. Were these extraordinary reign lengths simply mythology, or do they contain fragments of a forgotten chapter of human history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Silent History for more explorations into the mysteries of our ancient past.